Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It is conference championship week. I'm going to be predicting all the conference championships here, even the unranked games. There's like 8 or 9 of them, whatever. Let's kick it off. There's 2 games on Friday. And how about Liberty University? Possibly an outside chance to make a New Year's Six Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the winner of the American is in. But Liberty facing New Mexico State. Kind of an interesting wrinkle here. New Mexico State playing one extra game. I believe Oregon is going to be doing this next year as well. If you play in week 0, you can play an extra game. So this is another game for New Mexico State. Congratulations to them. What a year and what a comeback for their program. They were like 6-6 last year. Everyone was shocked they even made a bowl. Well, now here they are. I do believe this might be a technicality. They're even getting into this game, but still, it's a nice thing for their program. You do have Liberty sitting minus 11. And I do think Liberty is going to cover that spread and win 38-21. They will finish a perfect 13-0. They're going to get into a solid bowl, but I do not see a New Year's Six for them pretty much no matter what. No matter who wins in the American, very likely will go. Now we've got one of the biggest games of the week and probably the second biggest game behind Alabama, Georgia. It is Washington, Oregon. Right now, it's 6-4. We know the stake. If Washington wins, they're in. If Oregon wins, they're very likely in, outside of something crazy happening with Alabama beating Georgia. And then you have kind of an Oregon versus Georgia matchup in terms of one-loss teams. But now, Oregon, wow, 9.5-point favorites. They lost by 3 earlier this year. Washington coming into this game undefeated, but really struggling. I do understand the public sentiment is heavily on Washington plus the 9.5. Guys, I can sniff this out, and I understand that Oregon will cover this spread. I've seen it before with teams like Washington. They win all these close games, and then they get crushed at the end. Oregon, Bo Nix very likely winning the Heisman. Michael Penix Jr. kind of falling off recently. Not a great defense for Washington. I will take Oregon big in this one. There's been a lot of blowouts in the Pac-12 championship. Last year, I correctly predicted Utah to outright beat USC, and they blew them out. And now I'm going with Oregon to blow out Washington. If Washington loses this game like this, they're completely out of the playoff for sure. And this is a statement win for Oregon. And Oregon also has the extra motivation of kind of sitting there saying, listen, we're still a one-loss team. Our strength of record is not very good. So blowing out Washington and leaving, no room for doubt is really what we should be doing, and I think they do just that. Moving on to the Saturday games, this is a noon game, 11 a.m. Central, AT&T Stadium. It is Texas taking on Oklahoma State. We were wanting that rematch of Texas-Oklahoma. Would have been awesome, but, Oklahoma State's a fun team. And I do think Oklahoma State, believe it or not, covers this spread and keeps this game close. Again, they're just a fun team, and Texas normally always plays close games. Outside of the Black Friday game, I'll give you that. They destroyed Texas Tech 57-7, but they normally play close games. 14 points to me is too much. Oklahoma State, they are kind of weird because they probably should have lost to BYU. BYU's not very good. They got destroyed by UCF, but I predicted them to lose that game. I think they're a streaky team that can step up in an occasion like this, put up some points, keep the game close, cover the spread, and give us a good Big 12 conference championship. If Texas wins this game, they're going to have an amazing case to be in. A lot of it depends on what other teams do, though. There is a chance a one-loss Texas does get shut out completely based on, obviously Michigan, Georgia, Oregon, FSU possibly winning and being undefeated. Even if Washington wins, they're undefeated, they're in over Texas. So Texas very much needs FSU to lose, and they could use some other things to happen as well, like Alabama beating Georgia. If Alabama beats Georgia, Texas is in no matter what, but they first have to take care of business. If you are an Ohio State fan, 1,000% you're rooting against Texas. You have to have Texas lose. If Texas wins, Ohio State has zero chance in terms of the playoff. Next, we've got another noon game. How about Miami of Ohio taking on Toledo? This is the MAC championship. Toledo sitting 11-1. Miami of Ohio, very surprising this year. We expected Toledo to be here, but we thought it was going to be Toledo versus Ohio, not Miami of Ohio. I remember Miami of Ohio facing Miami, the Hurricanes, earlier this year and getting crushed. Toledo sitting -8, and I do like Toledo to win a close game, 24-21. Last year, Toledo kind of flopped in the MAC championship. I think they'll win, but they will not cover. Moving on to the afternoon games, it is Boise State taking on UNLV. Very interesting matchup here. Boise State, I know this is cliche, but they're so much better than their record. This is a really good team, and that's why they're coming into this game with a worse record than UNLV, but they're sitting 56% chance to win, 3-point favorites, UNLV. What a shocking year. Remember when we were saying, oh, Michigan's non-conference schedule is terrible? Well, it is still terrible, but, I mean, UNLV was on that non-conference schedule, and UNLV's actually had a very nice season. They've played really good football, which is extremely surprising considering they've got virtually no home field advantage playing at Allegiant Stadium. I just think Boise State, the way they've been playing, under the interim head coach, trying to get, that title of being the official head coach, Boise State's going to come out spirited. They're going to cover this spread. They're going to win this game 30-24 and win their conference championship. Moving on, the 4 o'clock game. This is the CBS game, the SEC championship. It is Georgia very likely coming into this game number 1. Possibly people are saying maybe Michigan moves to number 1. I still think Georgia's going to be number 1. They'll be taking on Alabama. What a weird performance from Alabama against Auburn. They should have lost that game. Legitimately should have lost that game. 4th and goal from the 30 with no time left. Ridiculous. But what are you going to do? Bama is 1 win away from very likely making the playoff. Georgia, the look-ahead line in this game was -3. They moved it a little bit -5, and you can even see ESPN FPI. They've really been down on Georgia. Only a 52% chance to win. I understand people are going to say, well, they only beat Georgia Tech by 8 points. They're looking ahead. They don't care. They calmly dispatched of Georgia Tech. And I have to say, I got to give Carson Beck credit. He's had a great year, way better than I thought he was going to be. And that just goes to show you how Georgia really is a well-oiled machine. And I think Georgia wins this game relatively easily. They cover. Bama, I mean, Bama's, with Jalen Milroe, high upside, but what I saw last week and Georgia kind of just playing with their food, Georgia to me is just a significantly better team, and I think ESPN, the analytics have been off on them all year. They really should probably have about a 70% chance to win this game based off of what we've seen from both of these teams this year, and I will take them to win relatively easily. If this happens, Alabama is completely knocked out. Georgia becomes the number 1 overall seed headed to the playoff. Next, we do have SMU taking on Tulane. The American Championship, possibly a New Year's 6 bowl on the line. How about this? Tulane sitting -4. SMU, the analytics love them. 73% chance to win this game outright. Preston Stone. SMU's been blowing everyone out. They have had a few close games, but my goodness, do they score a ton of points. And I do think it is SMU's time to shine. They really have been irrelevant, but now they get into a Power 4 conference. They've got a good young quarterback. I think they win this game outright, and I think they make a New Year's 6 bowl. Who will they face? Maybe they'll face Alabama. Could you imagine that? They're going to face someone. It'll depend either way. I think SMU wins this game based on how good they are and explosive they are on offense. Tulane, they've won some games. I get it. Their only losses to Ole Miss with their starting quarterback out. That's impressive. They've also had some very bad, underwhelming performances that you have to take into account. I will take SMU to win this game outright. Another 4 o'clock game. This is a brutal conference, man. It is Appalachian State taking on Troy. And you might be thinking, well, Appalachian State is normally good. Well, this year they're really not good. This conference is just extremely, extremely average. Troy sitting -6.5. I guess I'll say I find value in Appalachian State plus the 6.5. I'm kind of just throwing a dart here. I will take them to win this game outright over Troy. I do know that Troy normally does have a good defense. Either way, this game should be kind of a mosh pit. I will take App State. Moving on to the 2 night games. The first one, it always is the Big Ten Championship game on Fox. It is Michigan taking on Iowa. So Iowa makes it. They still I mean, they do only have 2 losses, but guys, this is literally the Twilight Zone every single year. The third straight year Michigan makes the Big Ten championship. They're going to play with their food. It'll be very close in the first half. Everyone will say, oh my goodness, Iowa's defense. Iowa, though, I'm not sure how they're going to score a point in this game. Like, seriously, I really don't know. Unless they get some fluke turnover off a J.J. McCarthy interception in the red zone. Even then, how are they going to be able to pass the ball? I think it ends 31-3. It's a very boring blowout, kind of like 2 years ago, I believe, Iowa faced Michigan in the Big Ten championship. And yes, this will be the last year of this. I'm sure the Big Ten does not appreciate what is going on right now. This game will get very low ratings. Pretty much the last 2 or 3 years Michigan's been in it against these bad teams, it gets extremely, extremely low ratings. And this is the last year this is going to happen. Next year, we could get a rematch of Ohio State-Michigan. You're talking about adding on, what an increase of 300% in terms of the ratings. They're going to love that. But this is the last year of this. I'm going to say Michigan destroys Iowa. I don't see how Iowa scores. And then the final game, or the final championship of the week, it's another 8 o'clock game. It is Louisville coming off a loss to Kentucky. I correctly predicted that, taking on FSU. Now, this is a huge one because you do have FSU sitting there undefeated. People saying they have the number 3 strength of record. People think they should be in if they win out. The context of it is really brutal considering the quarterback injury. They're sitting -3.5 against a bad Louisville team. I am going to go with an upset. And I'm going to go with Louisville winning this game for the good of the sport, for the good of college football. It's nothing against FSU. The issue is we do know if FSU wins out, they will very likely get destroyed, probably by Georgia, possibly by Michigan. But with their quarterback situation right now, it is unfortunate. Maybe you could still say it's a Cardale Jones situation. Maybe FSU comes out and starts throwing the ball all over the field. But against Florida, they did not look good. Florida really just self-destructed in that game and lost. Either way, I will take Louisville to surprise. I mean, it's not that crazy of a surprise considering FSU is -3.5. This is me more picking with my heart. I could very easily see FSU win a close game, and if that happens, it's literally nightmare scenario. But I do want to quickly give my playoff prediction on the 2 games. So right now, how it's looking and what I would say, the 1v4 matchup, which will be taking place in New Orleans, the Sugar Bowl, you would think Georgia, the 1 seed, would want to play in New Orleans, close to being home, and they would take on the 4 seed Texas. That's my projection. Georgia, Texas, Sugar Bowl, New Orleans, the Superdome. The 2v3 matchup would be out west. It would be in Pasadena. It would be the Rose Bowl, and the 2 seed would be Michigan. The 3 seed would be Oregon. So that is my current prediction right now. Michigan, Oregon, Georgia, Texas. Yes, if FSU wins, what do you do with them? Do you move them up to a 3 seed and have them face Michigan out in Pasadena? And then would Texas, stay at 4? Or would Texas get bumped out? Because now you're talking about, like, let's say FSU wins out. They're undefeated. You put them in as the 3 seed. Now you're talking about a 1-loss Texas and a 1-loss Oregon. Let's say Alabama loses, they're out of the picture. That's a crazy argument right there in and of itself. But I just want to say that is my prediction. It is probably going to be Georgia, Texas, Michigan, Oregon. Could be our playoff matchups. We will see. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.